Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org with a video tutorial for the new Boston. In this video we're going to be using the remove attribute to undisable or re-enable this button, if you like. And we're going to be focusing in on this remove attribute surrounding this sort of method that we're creating. And essentially what we're doing is we have a checkbox with the label I agree. And when we click on this, the continue button is enabled and we can go ahead and click it. We also disable this checkbox as well. So, you know, not really well, too much of a practical application, but there are practical applications to this. But I just wanted to create something more sort of applicable to real life to demonstrate the remove attribute function. So this is essentially what we're going to be creating. Let's go over to our text editor and start writing it. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to go ahead and do is inside of my body area I'm going to create the checkbox itself and then also the button as well. So I'm going to make the button to be, I'm going to create the button with the attribute disabled, which will automatically disable this button. So let's go ahead and first of all create the button. I'm going to obviously create an input with the type of button. I'm going to set a value to this just to say continue, and I'm going to set a property disabled. We'll just show you first. In the browser it looks like this. We can click on this button. If we go ahead and set the disabled attribute to disabled and we refresh, you can see that the button is now disabled. So that's in the state that we want it. We're going to go ahead and give this button an ID of continue, which means that in jQuery we can then reference this as continue. Obviously you can use a class or you can select a button, you know, as a whole. But in this case we want it for very specific uses. It won't belong to part of a class, it's just a single item with a single ID. Okay, so now that we've done that, we just have our disabled button on our page. I'm going to go ahead and just surround the checkbox in paragraph tags. So we're going to say input type equals and checkbox. And then next to this I just want to write I agree. So now we have this checkbox here which we can check and uncheck. Again, I'm going to give this an ID just so we can reference it, and this is just going to be called agree. So what's going to happen now? We need to think of how we're going to, you know, sort of set about this process. We're going to click on the checkbox. Once the checkbox has been checked, we want to enable this button and disable this button. So let's go ahead over to ext.js, which I've included on my page, as well as jQuery.js. And in ext.js we want to first of all wait for the document to be ready. So we say document.ready, and inside we have our function. So this is going to run when the document is ready. We want to bind an event handler. Let's just pull this down a bit to make it look a bit better. We're going to want to bind an event handler to this checkbox, so when it changes we can check for the status on, and then we can go ahead and enable this button by removing this disabled attribute. So let's go ahead and select our agree checkbox, and then we want to bind the event handler change to this, and inside of here will be a function which we pull down, and in here we can just test this by alerting out checked, for example. So now when we refresh and I click this, you see that we get this button, this alert dialog box just up here. So now that we know that once we check it we can perform you know, an initial operation, and the first thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and disable the current element. So let's go ahead and, well, actually we'll grab the state first and we'll have a look at this. So I'm going to say state is equal to this, referring to the current deselected object or element, and I'm going to say val. And that will take the value from this, the state essentially. In actual fact, let's go ahead and say attribute value, and I'm going to alert out the state. So now when I click on it, you see that we alert on. When I click on it again, you see that